I know this sounds crazy, but what if I told you that nobody actually knows who Farnham the Drunk is in Diablo 1? And not even Blizzard, apparently. I'm serious. In today's video, we're going to be exploring Diablo's biggest unsolved mystery to date, surrounding the least sober NPC found in the tattered remains of Tristram. It's a secret so clandestine that the developers refuse to even elaborate despite my multiple attempts. A puzzle so intriguing that YouTubers like the Act Man have DM'd me out of the blue, utterly perplexed. And from what I can tell, no one seems to have a concrete answer. Even after 30 odd years, it's the most slept on secret to date. Or at least, no one has come forth. Yet. Though there are plenty of theories. So, hello my friends, stay a while and listen as we explore the infuriating question, what is the true identity of Farnham the Drunk in Diablo 1? Before we dive into Farnham's identity, I think it's important to understand why he matters in the first place. Personally, I think many players underestimate his role in helping Diablo become the storytelling powerhouse it is today, or simply don't realize how vital he was to its atmosphere. Let me explain. If I asked the bulk of players what their most memorable Diablo moment was, the answers would likely fall into a few camps. For many, it's the first encounter with the Butcher, his speed, his cleaver, and the blood-chilling
fresh meat.
For others, it's King Leoric, the fallen ruler of Tristram turned undead skeleton king.
The warmth of life has entered my tomb.
But in truth, those encounters, terrifying as they were, wouldn't have had the same impact in isolation. What made Diablo unforgettable was Blizzard North's decision not to just create a dungeon crawler, but a living world, a hellish labyrinth below, and above it, a fragile haven of terrified townsfolk whispering about the horrors beneath their feet.
Thank goodness you returned. Much has changed since you lived here, my friend. The church at the edge of town has been desecrated and is being used for dark rituals. The screams that echo in the night are inhuman, but some of our townsfolk may yet survive. Follow the path that lies between my tavern and the blacksmith's shop to find the church and save who you can. Perhaps I can tell you more if we speak again. Good luck.
And among them sat Farnham the Drunk. His coping mechanism was the booze, and you can't really blame him. After hearing him ramble about his encounters with the forces of hell, such as the scar the Butcher left with half-coherent horror.
Big cleaver, killing all my friends. Couldn't stop him, had to run away, couldn't save them. Trapped in a room with so many bodies, so many friends. No!
And then he would spiral into hysterics in his cut dialogue lines.
No, you can't make me go back there. I won't let you take me. Too much pain. Too many dead. Can't get the blood out of my eyes. My mouth.
Which seems almost criminal to remove from the final game. When it came to Leoric, Farnham's slurred loyalty made him both tragic and endearing, refusing to believe the once beloved king had become a soulless monster.
I don't care about that. Listen, no skeleton is gonna be my king. Leoric is king. King! So you hear me? Hail to the king!
And despite being one of your few sources of information about Hell Below, Farnham's warnings were still questionable at best, blurring between half-truths and tavern nonsense. Still, his lines became instant classics. On the poisoned water supply, he questioned,
Can't a fellow drink in peace? You drink water?
On the Warlord of Blood, he would brighten.
Always you gotta talk about blood. What about flowers and sunshine? And that pretty girl that brings the drinks. Listen here, friend. You're obsessive, you know that?
And whatever this was.
I want to tell you something, because I know all about this stuff. It's my specialty. This here is the best. The best. That other ale ain't no good since those stupid dogs
And this is where Farnham, a simple drunkard, helped define the tone of Diablo. I genuinely believe the emotional grounding found in the heartfelt voice lines of Tristram's townsfolk, Farnham most of all, was a core part of what made Diablo beloved today as it was 30 years ago. Some even say his voice actor deserved an Oscar, and I don't know if Oscars really apply to voice actors, but I 100% agree with them.
They stab, then bite, then they're all around you. Liar! Liar! They're all dead. Dead! Do you hear me? They just keep falling and falling. The blood spilling out all over the floor. All his fault.
But this then begs the question, if the voices of Tristram were instrumental in making Diablo a classic, who was the talent behind Farnham? And this is where the plot insanely thickens for no reason, as no one knows, apparently anyway, despite my best efforts of reaching out to developers and research. See, in Diablo 1's development, there was a surprising lack of clear crediting. At the time, Blizzard's practices were different. The 90s were clearly a very different era for voice acting. Industry icons and convention circuits didn't really blossom yet. Voice acting was often an afterthought with no direct pairing between character names and their voice actors in the credits. Even printed credits in manuals weren't standard until years later. Thanks to IMDb though, we do have a partial lineup of known voice actors tied to certain characters, and a few others listed simply as additional voices, which were often used when actors voiced demons, enemies, or background lines without notable character credits. Look, this could have been a clerical oversight, but seeing as Farnham was part of the core cast, that doesn't make much sense. Even Blizzard alumni and Diablo writer Chris Metzen was credited for his minor role as King Leoric, and Bill Roper, part of the creative team, was credited for voicing both Ogden, the Butcher, and Diablo himself. Speaking of the Blizzard team, I'm not the only one who wondered who voiced Farnham. The internet's done plenty of digging, with one Reddit mod, Lord Per Maximum, sharing. Even David Brevik himself, the co-creator of Diablo, didn't know who voiced Farnham. I remember someone asked him about it during one of his wife's streams, but don't worry, I know more about Diablo than the creator himself, laugh out loud. And this checks out. I even reached out to the team, including Bill Roper, who told me he'd get back to me on X before deleting his account, though obviously I wasn't ready to give up, and this is where the mystery gets more intriguing. What if Farnham's voice actor chose to remain anonymous? Whoever voiced the drunk clearly had serious talent, something I've thought about, and so has Reddit user rblah, who put it succinctly in another thread. Why wasn't he credited in Diablo 1? Maybe he did it as a favor. Maybe he didn't want to be associated with, quote, kiddie video game stuff, or maybe he was close to Blizzard or the talent agency and it wasn't a formal job. Now this is where things take an unexpected turn. Some fans believed for years that the mysterious voice was a Hollywood actor who chose to stay uncredited and was none other than Bill Cosby. In fact, they've linked clips to what they believe is a close voice match, though you be the judge.
Treasure Island because I had to. I read all of that. And I know Mark Twain. I read all that. I can read and I can write, and the newspapers are not that difficult.
Now in the 90s, this actually may have been plausible, though expensive, given his fame at the time. But, and it's a big but, after Blizzard's past quote-unquote Cosby Suite controversy, well, that connection raises eyebrows. Could it actually explain why Cosby's picture was worshipped in that hotel room? But this was actually debunked by Lord Per Maximum, who followed up. David Brevik and Bill Roper had no idea who Farnham was, but Condor/Blizzard North co-founder Eric Schaefer confirmed to me that Farnham was not voiced by Bill Cosby. He said the voice actor was likely a random person from the Blizzard North office, though he didn't know who exactly. This is where I'm like, what is happening? Are you guys under an NDA and you got your mind wiped by the Men in Black? Look, if Farnham was really voiced by someone in the office, that is insanely impressive. The performance was far too refined in my opinion. It sounded like an absolute heavy-hitting professional that was leagues above even some of the voice actors.
What? Why are you here? All these interruptions are enough to make one insane. Here, take this and leave me to my work. Trouble me no more.
This brings us to one final candidate, Frank Gorshin. Frank, best known for playing the Riddler in the 60s Batman series, was a master of impersonation and boasted incredible range. He was still working through the 90s, even reprising his role in the Batman animated series as the Riddler.
It's too delicious. I even gave you a tip-off.
Though, here's where things line up. Blizzard had a pretty strong habit of working with the same voice talent across projects. Looking at IMDb, you can see overlap between Diablo 1 and StarCraft. And if you asked me what the emotional grounding of Diablo 2 was, I would say it comes from one particular character, Marius.
You have done well, Marius. Now I think you shall have your reward.
I don't deserve
The everyman caught between heaven and hell like a loose leaf in a hurricane, voiced by none other than the late, great Frank Gorshin. Gorshin also voiced Lysander, and you can hear his range firsthand in that role.
How do I know I can trust you, You may be as shifty as that pack rat Elzix who runs the inn. But if you need a potion, though, I suppose I can make you one. For a price, of course.
Now, unfortunately, Gorshin has since passed, and if anyone is still in contact with Blizzard North, maybe even the voice editor Glenn Stafford, who likely ran the recording sessions, has insight, it'd be deeply appreciated by the fandom and especially myself. As, although we have theories, unless someone gets a straight answer from the remaining Blizzard staff, the truth may ultimately simply be lost to time. I can't believe I'm saying that. But who do you think voiced Farnham? Do you have any information? Let me know in the comments below, and I'll make sure to follow up if a strong lead comes across my desk. I really appreciate it. And of course, as always, thanks for watching. Make sure to subscribe for more Dark Lore.
Why don't that old crone do something for a change? Sure, she's got stuff. If you listen to me, she's unnatural. I ain't never seen her eat or drink, and you can't trust somebody who doesn't drink at least a little.